Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo Depaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. All right, guys, I am your host, Butch here again this week, and before we jump into the report, we got a really cool opportunity for you. We have partnered with AFCO, and they are offering all of our listeners a free sun protection mask with any purchase of AFCO products. They make a ton of great products for all types of anglers. All you have to do to get the coupon code is text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the promo code via email. All right, folks, we have a great Alabama saltwater fishing report lined up for you this week. But first, let's see who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama saltwater fishing report is brought to you by Sportsman's Marine. Sportsman's Marine has an extensive tackle selection of anything that local anglers need for saltwater and freshwater fishing, as well as boating accessories. They have the largest selection of the slick lure in Mobile and Baldwin County. They have AFCO, Pelagic, and Saltwater Fanatics apparel along with other local brands. Go check out their Edgewater, Wellcraft, and Vecsey lines of boats. They offer engine services with 5-star Yamaha and Mercury mechanics. Also, if you're looking for a street legal electric golf cart, go check out their Atric golf carts. Sportsman's Marine on Highway 98, and they also have a downtown location next to Mr. Jean's Beans in Fairhope, Alabama. And also brought to you by Photonis Defense, Masters of Darkness. Photonis Defense is proud to offer the PD Pro line of night vision systems. The PD Pro series is the world's smallest and lightest night vision goggles built around the Photonis 16mm filmless 4G image intensifier tubes in their hybrid filmless 18mm image intensifier tubes. These ultra-light, ultra-compact night vision systems deliver cleanest images, best resolution, smallest, most transparent halo, and best overall performance and function of any night vision system available. The PDR Pro line consists of the PD Pro M 16mm monocular, the PD Pro B 16mm binocular, and the PD Pro Q panoramic night vision system. Photonis Defense, Masters of Darkness. All right, guys, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Weekly Fishing Report podcast. I am your host, Butch, and I am joined today with Captain Patric Garmeson as my sidekick. And before we get our report for the day, joining us on the special segment, we're going to be talking to Zach McAllister and Julian Erwin of Salt's Gone. Captain Patric, Joe and I were walking around ICAST, and I knew that you had been working with these guys with this product, and you were a big advocate of it. So I was really excited about this segment today.
Yeah, man. I actually heard Zach on the Tom Rowland podcast, and I think I was listening to the Tom Rowland podcast on the way back to the boat shed to wash my boat. And
That's good timing.
he hit some key points in that interview with Tom that I realized that I was not boat washing properly and not maintaining this. I spent a lot of money on boats and equipment and all this stuff. So it really hit home for me, and I gave Zach a call or shot him an email or something, got set up with him and got some product in my hands. And I don't know, I feel like I'm lost if I don't have some of it on my on hand to be able to rinse the boat off and get things started in the right direction now. So
yep, that's great, man. That was perfect timing whenever you reached out to me and said, man, you got to try this stuff. And I feel like it was perfect timing whenever I ran into Zach and Julian at ICAST. I just bought the first boat that I've ever cared about, truthfully. And so I'm figuring out how to care for it myself as well. So Zach and Julian, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today. Zach, let's start with you, man. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this Salt's Gone thing.
Sure. So I've been in the corrosion industry now for about 15 years. A lot of it dealing with, heavy industrial corrosion. We're out of Houston. And so to make a long story, indefinite, if you are Shell Oil, if you're Elon Musk, if you're a guy trying to clean their boat in the backyard, y'all know most the same amount about corrosion. You just know that it exists and you know that it's a problem. And a lot of people, they just kind of know the general idea of, hey, I just need to get it off of there. But most people don't understand the science behind it. And so after spending so many years in the corrosion industry, we really needed a product for our customers that hey guys, you just need to be able to get the salt off to extend the life of the coatings, to extend the life of the equipment. And it just so happens that the parameters that we kind of made the product to ended up being a perfect fit in the consumer world for stuff like boats, where it's totally safe, it's easy to use, but it's 100% effective, right? It's meant for a paint inspector to come behind it and, test the quality of the results. So it's been a super fun product. I'll tell you, what is not fun is being part of a 3 to 5 year paint study. What is fun is getting out on everybody's boat, and being a part of this world for sure.
Yeah, I would think testing paint on boats is way more fun than somewhere in an industrial setting for sure. Well, how about you, Julian? Tell us a little bit about how you fit into this equation.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, I'm definitely not in the paint testing part of this, but I grew up in South Florida. I've been just fishing since I was a little kid, did some guides and stuff young, but I've basically been an airline pilot for about the last 40 years, corporate aviation with the airlines. And in the mid 90s, really downturn in the business. And I bought and ran a charter boat in Keys full time for about 3.5 years and started using some other products back then, but they were really kind of designed as motor flushes. And I was having some trouble with some of my gear. So when I met Zach with this product, I was a little leery. Do I want to put this on rods and reels and stuff like that? And like Zach said, most people don't understand the science. Most products are using an acid to dissolve the salt. And our niche is we're doing it a totally different way where it's a totally neutral pH. You can put it on anything, especially like your ceramic coatings, any of your decks. My department is taking it into the airplane world. The airplane world has a big issue with corrosion. And today we were just talking to two of the biggest airplane manufacturers in the country. So like Zach said, this product, you can really use it anywhere. But I just love to fish and hunt so much. This is kind of my favorite part of it myself. But I got into it just because I was using the product, fell in love with it. Zach and I are just really good friends. And I said, I've only got a couple of years left in the flying business and I wanted to get involved. So we've just been having a good time as partners doing this together.
Very cool story, guys. Well, like I said, thanks for joining us today. And let's go back to the kind of the beginning and the grassroots of this thing. Zach, what is a corrosion inhibitor?
Before you can really dive into what is a corrosion inhibitor, you got to understand, particularly with salt, what it's doing. So to really make it a super short story, when sodium and chlorine come together, they are actually very unstable. So they come together really easily. And that's why salt is, if it's not the most common mineral on the planet, it's got to be like number 2, right?
Got to be.
But what happens is the bond is actually unstable and there's a really strong desire for electrons. And so what that means is when the salt lands on something, it wants to pull the electrons out of it, right? It's trying to satisfy its bond. Well, conveniently for the salt, everything is made out of electrons, right? Like the glue that holds your metal together, if you would, is the electrons. And so what happens is those electrons are pulled out. And that's what we see as rust, right? That the visual cue is the corrosion. And so what corrosion inhibitors are doing is they're essentially providing copious amounts of electrons so that as the salt lands back on the surface, it has something to attack, right? You're not going to stop the salt from doing what it does on the inhibiting side. You need to give it what it's looking for. Does that make sense? So you're constantly feeding it kind of what it wants. And when it has what it wants, it's never going to attack the metal on the boat.
Very interesting stuff. So as I mentioned, I have a vessel that I'm trying to care for as good as possible now that I like this thing. And it was kept in a great climate controlled environment before, and now it's sitting outside on a salty lift. And so I've been trying to be extra careful about it. Do they only work before corrosion begins, or will they aid in stopping corrosion once it is started? Kind of give us the breakdown there.
Yeah. So salt's gone. It is a product that you're going to use regularly, right? So you take the boat out, it gets salty, you use the product. So it's doing a couple things. One, we're instantly removing the salt, right? So we want to get rid of the catalyst. Then what the corrosion inhibitors are going to do is provide you that barrier so that as the new salt lands on the surface, you've got something to protect it. And so, as far as will it work with existing rust? We don't pitch it this way, right? So here's the fun little known fact. But if you took a rusty nail and you stuck it in salt gone overnight, it wouldn't be rusty in the morning. So those electrons that we were talking about, when those electrons leave, we see as rust. When those electrons return, you see metal, right? So corrosion inhibitors in our case can reverse the effects of corrosion. Now that's going to be with repeated use. You're not going to spray it on there one time and all the rust on your trailer is going to go away. Or if you got a 3-inch hole in there, it's not going to go away. So
Right.
not to be misconstrued, right? But metal, it goes both ways. The metal can begin to rebuild itself when it's resupplied with what it lost, which is those electrons.
So Zach, what are the benefits of using corrosion inhibitors or just spraying the boat off with fresh water? And the reason I'm asking this question is because that was the point that I heard that stood out to me in your interview with Tom Rowland. Was I was always under the impression or always thinking that if I jumped up in the boat with fresh water, I washed the salt off, I'm good. So tell our listeners why I wasn't as good as I thought I was.
So this is the number one thing that you hear, right? Water dissolves salt, water removes salt. And, the question I always ask people is like, all right, cool, man. How'd you get the salt on your boat? They're like, well, I was out in the water and, okay. So how exactly does water remove salt, right? Water moves salt, but it doesn't remove it. And so what happens as we're, spraying off the deck of the boat, every little crack, crevice, you're kind of forcing the salt behind there. The reality that, somewhere that you have an eye hook, you're going to get enough water behind there to get all the salt out is a very limited amount of reality, right? So what SaltScon is doing is it's providing a chemical aid. If the water could get there, the SaltScon could get there, right? Because they're spraying everything down. And now we have a chemical aid to remove it. It'd be like, imagine washing Thanksgiving dinner with just running water. The Dawn soap really gives you a bit of an advantage.
A little
right?
leg up, right.
Yeah, a little bit of a leg up. And so, when you're washing your boat with just fresh water, it's kind of like just using Dawn soap on your Thanksgiving dishes. You might get there, but you're just not going to get there quite as easily, quite as quickly, and you're not going to do as well of a job.
Definitely makes sense. So I'm picturing this thing. I have a small tower on my boat. It's powder coated. So there's several different applications that you guys have for this stuff, but the one that I'm most familiar with is you screw it onto a hose, correct?
Yeah, the hose end sprayers are our most popular ready-to-use packaging. They contain 32 ounces of product. You hook your garden hose up to it, probably just like you've used something to spray, weed killer on your yard or something like that. It's the same packaging. And when you turn it on, you have product mixing with water on its way out. Now, those are just made for us, so it's mixing the product. It's a 1:100 ratio. They got a nice wide spray pattern on them. You got pressure from the hose, but it's certainly not like a pressure washer. So like, the people that are afraid for their reels and those types of things, it's not like so powerful. And then it's easily refilled. But what's really unique about the packaging, and this is kind of like my own personal pet peeves about, foam cannons and other delivery methods, that are out there, is that the water is never mixing with the product until it's coming out the nozzle. So when you are finished with the hose end sprayer, that bottle is empty. So from the bow to the stern, you're getting the exact same amount of product out the entire time. What I kind of always hate about some solutions is, the water's constantly mixing in there. And so it works good in the beginning. And then, you're kind of like, oh man, how blue is blue? Like, do I still have enough in here? Is it still working? And the hose end sprayers alleviate that. So they really make it, a pretty idiot-proof product, right? If you got something in the bottle, it's going to proportion out to the right amount. When the bottle's empty, just go ahead and refill it. Very, very easy for people to use.
That's what I need for sure.
Yeah.
We have bigger stuff, so, if you're a charter guy and you got 3 42-foot Freemans, you might want a wash station box, right? Where it's permanently mounted on the wall and you're just going to be able to turn it on and off with a wireless remote. You might want something a little more high tech for a bigger boat, but if you're just running around the bay, and not using it absolutely every day, the hose end sprayer it's just an ideal product.
Well, and I was going to say that people want to kind of have an idea of what they're going to get out of that product or what out of that one bottle. I typically, the way I wash my boat is I'll fire up the salt scone sprayer and I'll just start at the stern. I'll work my way down. I'm hitting the trailer wheels, the brakes, all of that stuff, the outside of the boat, all over the top side. I'm leaving all my rod and reels in the rod holders and stuff. So I'm hitting all of the rod holder or all the rods, and I'm getting probably about 6 washings out of that one bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm thoroughly covering everything. So for our listeners, that one bottle is getting me about basically a week's worth of, because I'm on the water 5, 6, 7 days a week. So I'm getting pretty much a week's worth out of one bottle. So
That's awesome. And if it's taking all that salt off and preventing corrosion, then man, how can you beat that?
Plus all my equipment.
All your equipment.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm kind of spoiled. So I live right on the water. I've got a 24 Pathfinder in my backyard, and I have the dock box. And I tell guys, I buy it like 5 gallons at a time. I kind of hide it in the box, goes right up in there. Man, it just makes it so quick and easy. And over time, I've actually kind of saving money. It's kind of like a power pole, though. The first time you're going, man, am I going to spend this amount of money for a power pole? I can pull my anchor. Once you got that, it spoils you. It just makes things so much easier to use. And I was going to add one thing to what Zach was saying. We were talking a little before the show, but back in the 90s when I was using some of the products, they were an acid base. I would put some of the products on my reels, and there were 2 things happening. One, the acid, it would dissolve the salt, but over time it would kind of etch my drags and the coatings on my rods and stuff. And the other thing would happen is those products actually eat the grease and the protection that you have on your rods and reels, like Corrosion X and stuff we use on our engines. We don't emulsify any of that oil. So any protection you have on your rods and reels, it's going to stay there. And same thing with your oil-based protections on your engines and stuff like that. It really protects that. Like I said, that my drags would get kind of grabby. I didn't understand what was happening. And what was happening was the acid was etching them, and it was just getting rid of all the grease. So that's one of the things I really like about SaltCon is it leaves all your protection in place and doesn't harm your equipment. That's a big question I get all the time.
Absolutely. And so that's kind of where I was going a minute ago. And this is a perfect question for you, Julian, since you know the technical aspect and you're a captain. Like I was saying, I have a little tower on my boat now, and I'm just picturing, starting from the very top, I have a little, Garmin unit up there. I'm talking about just starting spraying up there and spraying bow to stern and top to bottom. Is there anything that you can spray that you don't want to spray, or vice versa? Is there anything that this can harm and or vice versa?
That's a great question. And that's one of the main reasons I love SaltCon is the first thing I do is just kind of from the beginning is flush your engine, because you want to flush it while it's hot, right? And we want the SaltCon to go in first, because once that cold water starts hitting it, the thermostats kind of start shutting your engine off. And then just like Patric said, I start at the front and go to the back. And the powder coating is great, but you'll get those little nicks and stuff in there. And if you're not using SaltCon, that'll corrode you over time. But no, any ceramic coatings, and this is ICAST, we were getting so many questions about this. People are using really nice ceramic coatings. They're putting things like C-Deck, and people are coming to us and saying that the acids in the other products were kind of eating the adhesion, the glues they were using for the C-decking. And then when they were putting acid on their ceramic coatings, it was etching it. And SaltCon, being a totally neutral pH, you could spray it on anything. So my screens, all my bottom machines, my radios, any of that stuff, any wraps you have, they're totally safe to use. And that's really our niche in this deal, that you can spray it on anything and it won't harm it. And then the other, Zach and I are always kidding around. We're always talking about corrosion, but we have to put some really quality soaps in the product. And man, it just really makes your boat pop when you're done. So you're kind of protecting everything, and you're making it really clean, and you can do it all in one fell swoop, and you're on and off pretty quick. So yeah, you can spray it on anything and not have a problem, Butch.
Awesome.
So real quick, everybody, kind of probably keeps hearing this pH neutral thing, and just to touch on it, briefly, why why it's a deal. So salt and water have the same pH, right? They have a pH of 7. And so traditionally speaking, when people have wanted to attack salt, they would generally use a low pH, like an acid, or a high pH product. And the idea behind it was always to change one of the physical characteristics of the salt, right? So if you make salt not have a pH of 7, it will no longer be salt. That is accurate. The problem is that you just can't use it everywhere, right? Hey, that's a great way to flush your motor, but if it gets on my electronic screen, I'm going to see that mark there forever. So on the technical, the coating side, kind of where the product came from, if it didn't have a neutral pH, it would have never passed paint inspections, right? It would have never been able to kind of be this prep. And so that's a big part of, kind of understanding, I don't even have ceramic coatings on my boat. Why do people keep talking about this neutral pH? This is what's allowing it to get on your electronic screens. This is what's allowing it to, get everywhere on the fabrics on your boat, on your bimini tops, on your seat covers, right? This is what's allowing it to go everywhere. Just understanding a little bit of how salt and how water work, it really is unique to be able to do that with a neutral pH product.
Very cool, man.
Hey, Zach, I was going to ask you, on the product, it says that it's a salt eliminator plus a protectant. And I've noticed that since using the product, it seems like washing the boat becomes a little bit easier, like the stains don't stick as bad. How is that possible without us having like waxes or anything like that are, that would help to try to repel stains? Or am I just dreaming and thinking that something's happening and it's really not?
Well, yeah. So what keeps stains on our boat is surface tension, right? And so when people talk about wax, talk about ceramic, they don't oftentimes picture really what's happening. Okay. So whether it's wax or ceramic, when you look at the paint or parts of your boat, imagine it under a microscope. And under a microscope, it's going to look just like a piece of sandpaper. There's going to be a bunch of peaks and valleys. And when you put ceramic on there or wax or anything else, you're filling in those peaks and valleys with a hydrophobic product, something that repels water. And that's why you get that sheeting effect. And so what happens over time, we walk on it, we hit it with deck brushes real hard. We essentially abrade that surface. And so what begins to happen, over time and kind of what you're seeing is you're preserving the protective coatings that are on your boat, right? You're not having to scrub it as hard. You're not doing the things that damage the surfaces. And so they're working better. They're working how they're supposed to.
You're not going backwards.
Exactly. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. You're not going backwards. You're keeping what you have and preventing that deterioration. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Exactly. So what you're seeing is just, hey, what I've got is just working better, and that's kind of what the goal is.
Absolutely, man. I'm all about that. Well, guys, thanks for joining us today. It was great to see you. We always like to tell our listeners, where to find you guys' product. What's the best place to go and get more information? If you guys have some resources online or social media, where would you point our audiences?
So, of course, you can visit saltscon.com. We've got all of our products on there. Everything ordered before 2 o'clock Central Time is going to ship out same day. You can give Jeff Bezos a little love and get us on Amazon. And then you can, of course, follow us on, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We're all over the place.
Awesome, man. Like I said, we appreciate it. Julian, it was always a pleasure, man. Nice to see you guys again.
Really enjoyed speaking with you guys.
Thanks y'all so much.
All right, guys, that was a very informative segment from Zach and Julian over at SaltCon. Let's take a quick break and check out a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Ricciardoni Family Dentistry. You're going to need a good dentist, so you may as well make an appointment with fellow angler Josh Ricciardoni. He provides services for all ages and accepts most dental insurances. Do not let an achy tooth ruin a day on the water. Call today to book an appointment at 251-342-6672. And also brought to you by Admiral Shellfish. Admiral oysters are available at select restaurants and can also be purchased by the public at Bon Secours Fisheries, Inc. and Ahi Seafood in Fairhope, Alabama. Call for availability. From a simple, nutrient-dense appetizer at home or a shucking party with friends, Admiral oysters will steal the show. Follow their adventures on Instagram at Admiral Shellfish Co. All right, Captain Patrick, let's head on down and talk to our buddy Blakely Ellis over at CCA Alabama. Welcome back to the show, Blakely. How are we doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, fellas. How are y'all?
Good, man. Did you finally recover from ICAST?
I think so. I don't know. It's still, that thing's like a tornado. You show up and really excited, and then you kind of like, you do a do-si-do, and then it spits you out the other end and with a bunch of business cards and some emails. And it's the work just begins when you leave there, you know?
That's a fact. That's a fact, man. Well, fishing's heating up. I know you guys have a lot going on over there in Orange Beach at the CCA Alabama chapter. Tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, so we've got our Orange Beach chapter, the Lower Alabama chapter has got their in-person fundraiser, the beach party, that's going to be next Saturday, August 20th at the wharf. We've got a new location on that property there. We're going to be it's called Heron Point is the building, and it's over kind of to the east side of the Marina. It used to be the Outfitter Center. It's a really nice property, beautiful building, really cool space. And that event is going to be, like I say, Saturday, August 20th from 6 to 9. And tickets are $130 for a couple and $90 for a single. That includes we're doing a big old shrimp boil with all the fixings, and then a full bar and beer, wine. And each of those includes the 12-month CCA membership as well.
Sounds like an incredible deal, man. What kind of goodies you got this time?
Man, we've got a lot of good stuff. I've got some stuff that's a result of this last trip to ICAST, like those turtle box portable speakers. Those things are really slick. Like the Bluetooth speaker of all Bluetooth speakers for boats. You know, they're waterproof down to like 4 or 5 feet. The guy said they held a weight to one, zip tied it, and held it underwater for 24 hours and pulled it up, and it still worked and functioned and all that. So
that's awesome.
They do float, so that's why they have to sink it to the bottom. And so if you're looking for some extra tunes on your vessel, if your stuff is kind of blown out already and you don't want to fool with it, this may be the route to go. So we're going to have some of those. Yeah, lots of good stuff. You know, Boat Board has a lot of inflatable products now. So I'm going to have the full lineup of all that good stuff for raffle and silent auction items. You know, a lot of the stuff y'all have come to expect from us with our partners like Sims and Iowa. We're going to have tons of great artwork. We're going to have good trips to like the Chandelier Islands, down to Cabo. Some opportunities to do some hop on some of the research trips we've got coming up to with South Alabama for our bull red study and some flounder studies. So if you've been kind of watching Captain Rutland and Dylan do some of their flounder studies, we're going to have a very unique opportunity to get you on the boat with them. So those are some of the fun things we've got lined up. And then, like I said, it'll be a live auction, raffle, and silent auction.
Sounds like a pretty good event there.
Pretty good
Blakely.
lineup, pretty good food, pretty good drinks, pretty good prizes. I'm all about that.
Yeah, all the way around.
Yeah.
Well-rounded event. Well, I got a question for you. We started something back in the beginning of summer. Sent out a few redfish or with blue tags. What's going on with that, man? Where are we at in that program?
So there's still about 4 weeks left for the tournament, but we do not have a winner yet. So we still have just the two anglers who've caught and reported the blue tag redfish. And the last one we had was back in, it was before the 4th of July. So we didn't have any fish caught and reported in July. So that Nautic Star Bay Boat package is still up for grabs. And all you have to do to enter that tournament is to go on the Fishing Chaos app, and you can sign up that way for $75, or you can go through our CCA national website and sign up that way. But the cool part is no matter what, somebody's going to take home that boat package. And so when the tournament ends on Labor Day Monday at 5:00 p.m., if we do not have a certified winning fish caught, then everybody that had entered the tournament will be eligible for that drawing, and one of them will go home with that boat motor and trailer package.
And I bet that person will not be going to work the next day.
Yeah.
Blakely, that's the part I've been trying to drive home with people here recently. The conversation is, well, the tournament started here and it ends here. and the first person to
Mhm.
catch the blue tagged redfish wins the boat. But at the end of the day, if you buy the ticket now or one day before the event ends, and whether you catch it or you don't, and nobody catches it, we get to the drawing at the end. Someone that entered into the tournament is winning that boat. So
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
right.
what we need to. That's the message we need to drive home. Even if you've never caught a redfish before in your life, go ahead and buy the ticket and be ready. That way, if we don't get a blue tag redfish caught, then someone's winning the boat that bought the ticket.
Yeah, I'm gonna win that for sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought I was already the shoot, but I mean,
I'll make you
whatever.
a good deal. I'll make you a good deal.
You'll
On
make.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. And
And your odds are getting better and better at this point.
I mean, yeah. Like, so even if you want to play the odds and try to fish for it this last month, and then knowing that the odds of it converting to that giveaway at the end of the summer, you know, give yourself a shot at you might end up catching that fish before it ends. But if you don't and nobody else does, then you still got a just as good of a shot to take home that package. And so it's pretty good odds. I mean, we're up to around 400 participants. So one in 400 odds of winning a $65,000 boat package for a $75 investment.
Yeah, I'll take that.
pretty good.
That's cheap, man. That's cheap. And that's what I guess that's what I'm getting at is, you know, we have listeners. I've talked to listeners that live in Pennsylvania and Indiana and Illinois that may not have a chance to come back down, but you know, it's real easy to jump on Fishing Chaos and buy the $75 ticket and be in the drawing in case if this fish isn't caught. So I don't know. I just think I think it's a no-brainer to be involved in this drawing.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, yep, for sure. You got a sec? I'll give you that that text code for people that want to purchase tickets or look at the silent auction stuff once we get it up in a couple of weeks. But
Absolutely,
you can text LA 2022 to the number 76278. That'll send you a link to get tickets or sponsorships and all that good stuff.
awesome, buddy. We appreciate you being on. We appreciate you being a sponsor of Great Days Outdoors, Blakely. We'll talk to you next time.
Yes, sir. All right, see y'all later.
Man, just to wrap up those two segments, that was a really cool salt scone thing, man. I think it sounds like an absolute no-brainer, especially somebody, you know, living on the water or have their boat on a lift, or somebody that, I mean, really just anybody. Obviously, somebody that uses it every day like you, it's definitely a no-brainer. But I mean, I feel like I wash my boat more than I fish on it whenever it's sitting down there on the lift. You know what I mean? Just to keep, you know, crap off of it, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean it's inevitable.
Especially where we live. Good Lord.
Yeah. I mean, we live in the salt air. It's just part of life around here. You know, I reached out to Zach after hearing him on the Tom Rowland podcast and got set up with Salt's Gone on as a brand ambassador.
Nice.
And man, it's been a perfect product for me, especially it was a perfect timing because I took on a new Blue Wave, and I got to start with a brand new fresh vessel, engine, trolling motor, electronics, trailer, everything. And man, I mean the minimal amount of corrosion and rust and everything on this boat is just amazing. And it's 100% because of this Salt's Gone. Because it's the only thing I've changed about the way I'm doing things. So it's really, really cool. Proof is in the pudding. But if anybody is interested in buying that product, if they want to use the promo code, I've got a 10% off, and you can use promo code ugly_fishing. And if you forget what that is and you forget what the underscore button looks like, you can go on my website, and we've actually got a link on there as well on my homepage at uglyfishing.com.
Very cool, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
All right, Captain Patrick, we'll head on down to Orange Beach, Alabama. Let's head to Sam's Stop and Shop. We'll see what Chris Vecsey is up to. We hadn't had him on the show in a while. Welcome back to the show, Chris. How we doing today, buddy?
Man, I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Not too bad, man. What you been up to? I know it's been interesting weather, to say the least. You've been getting wet. You've been dodging storms. What you been doing?
A little bit. My wife would my wife would definitely. This morning we hung out underneath the pier for a little while to hide from lightning. So she would. She wasn't exactly happy about that, but she just kind of laid back, and I just kept fishing. So
that's all you can do.
Yep.
Well, what you been chasing? Tell us a fish story.
August, pretty much. I've tried to get out a couple times, go out front for tarpon, and it's just been pretty rough on any average day. So I've been pretty much sticking on the grass flats and chasing redfish. I mean, that's been very consistent. The water conditions have been inconsistent. If you hit it on the incoming tide, first thing in the morning for a couple hours, you get some pretty clean water. Man, when that tide switches though and goes outgoing, that water is absolutely disgusting. And the thing about it though is it doesn't necessarily shut the bite down, but I'm mostly doing a lot of sight fishing right now. Once that turns, you don't know that redfish is there until you're about to run them over.
All right, Chris. I've been doing a little bit of sight fishing in my neck of the woods when the weather allows and everything. And some of the redfish have 1 minute, they seem to be like really wanting a finfish type of lure. And then another minute, they're wanting something like maybe a shrimp or a crab imitation, something smaller profile, something a little bit more creature-like. And I can't put my finger on it why one versus the other, because like every time I'm seeing redfish, I'm seeing finger mullet and I'm seeing crabs and potentially shrimp, and I'm not figuring it out until I get the refusal, and then I switch over to a different bait and then maybe get one to bite. Tell me a little bit about what some of the lures and some of the tactics you've been using on that sight fishing.
That's actually a pretty good point you just brought up, because the first thing in the morning over here, and I'm throwing both a little bit of spinning tackle, a little bit of fly tackle. First thing in the morning, I'm catching them on topwater hard baits or topwater flies, all bait fish oriented stuff. And they're chasing bait fish. I'm watching them chase, I would say finger mullet. They're not even finger mullet. They're like 2 inches long. And then of course they're chasing what looks to be little LYs, sardines. But once that sun comes up, if I can throw bait fish oriented patterns all I want, I won't get them to eat them. Every now and then I can get one to eat a jerk bait, but after that sun comes up and they're sitting on the grass, especially if they're laid up, if it doesn't look like a crab, they're not eating it. And I pretty much have been throwing one bait, and that's the I know I've mentioned before, but like the bugs lures, the pyramidal bug. Yeah, if I put that on one of those redfish in one of the potholes or grass edges, they're going to eat it almost every time. But if I throw any kind of soft plastic, anything bait, it looks like a bait fish, they care nothing for it. It's just crazy. Same fish, same groups of fish. Early morning, top waters, shallow diving, like wake baits have been absolutely wrecking them. And then once that sun comes up, I can throw that same stuff and they don't even pay attention to it.
That's crazy.
I was just thinking if a jerk bait would work in that scenario.
It should. It absolutely should. And every now and then I can get one to eat. Like I've been throwing that Rapala ripstop, and every now and then I can get one to eat if I just thump it in the bottom, like right in front of them. Sometimes I can get that reaction strike, but 9 times out of 10, they absolutely don't care about that thing. But if I put the little bugs lure on them and just lightly feather, I mean, I'm barely working it, just lightly feathering that thing through the water in front of them, they'll come up and eat it most of the time.
That's
very interesting.
Man, it's so interesting how we're in 2 different systems and like almost the exact same behavior for these fish. That's pretty wild.
And can't take the redfish out of the redfish. They're gonna do what they do. They're gonna do what they do for sure.
They are gonna do what they do. That's right. What else you been chasing?
Been getting a few trout mixed in with the reds. Really not many trout, and I blame that probably on the salinity more than anything. I did get a really nice one this morning. It was probably about 21 inches or so, but that was the only trout I caught this morning. Pretty much that. The jacks. I've launched down Fort Morgan a little bit over the last 2 weeks, and the jacks have been real consistent down there and a little bit easier to get into in Orange Beach and in Perdido Key. They kind of come in waves at random moments across the flats. And like this morning we had a small group come by us, but they were out of casting range, and I was in a no motor zone, so I couldn't get on them quick enough. But you got to be quick on them when they come across the flats over here, because if you're not in range, by the time you by the time you get on them, they're already gone basically. So, but there's some flounder on those same grass edges, occasional pompano, all kinds of stuff. There's little surprises for sure. My wife was throwing a wake bait this morning on this one point we fish a lot over in Big Lagoon, and she actually had about a 4-foot bull shark, come chasing after it, and luckily it didn't grab it because I'm pretty sure we would have lost that wake bait had that happened. But
yeah, right. Well, Chris, before you go much further, I want to go back to the jacks. I don't know.
You've been
what
catching
you're
some giant jacks. I've been seeing your Instagram.
They've been XL.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you. Is there are certain areas where we're catching like some showing off hammers, some 27s to 30 plus, but I've seen more fish in Mobile Bay this year that are in the teens, like 13 pounds to 19 and 20,
That's perfect.
21
That's a perfect
pounds.
size.
And man,
Yeah,
they are really the fun size. But I've seen more this year all along Fort Morgan Peninsula, all up and down the eastern shore, even some on the western shore. And I was wondering if you've been seeing some of that in your area, or if it's just kind of a weird Mobile Bay thing.
Yeah, I've seen some like 12 to 15 pound fish in Mobile Bay. Over here on the flats in Orange Beach, they've all been absolute giants. And y'all have fished for them long enough to know, when most people give you the estimates on jack sizes, you need to take it with a grain of salt. If you put those fish on a scale, they usually disappoint you. What you thought was a 30-pound jack is probably 19, 20 pounds. But the ones here that have been showing up on the flats and in the bayous over here in Orange Beach and Perdido Key, I mean, they've been legit like anywhere from 24 to probably, there's some fish that are in the low 30-pound range. They're all, I guess I could say they're all the fun size. These just give you about 10 to 15 minutes more fun, I guess.
What's funny about that is I think it was last year about this time, we were talking with Bama Beach Bum, and we were all talking about how we wish there was more of those fun size fish around here. I don't remember if that was you, Captain Patrick, or not, but I can definitely remember talking about that probably this time last year.
Yeah, normally,
yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah.
Well, and the reason I say normally, I'm looking for that, but like this past weekend with me and Cooper fishing the Condi Rodeo, I caught way more 22 to 24 pound jacks than I care to have to catch. trying to find that fish that's 27 and 28 pound or anything over 27 pounds is kind of my target whenever I'm tournament fishing. And man, my back's still sore from having to fight the quote unquote fun size.
I've fished the west coast of Florida a lot, Tampa Bay, Crystal River, that whole stretch pretty much between the two. And down there we catch tons of 2 to 8 pound jacks. Realistically a 10 to 12 pounder is I'd almost say it's bigger than normal. A lot of them are the smaller size, and it's kind of funny how in some places you don't have the giants, and in other places like here, it's hard to find that fun in between size jack. And most people don't appreciate them to begin with. Guys spend thousands of dollars to go chasing giant trevally, bluefin trevally, all these other species of jacks all over the world, and we have a world class jack right here. And people, it's like, if you really break it down, like let's compare it to, all right, let's look at a billfish, for example. It's like, they're kind of flashy, they're colorful, they fight hard, they're aggressive. And you usually catch them, and what do? You let them go. And so here you have a jack, which to me, a jack is a beautiful fish. They look mean as hell, for one, which is awesome. They love hitting top waters. They fight like hell, and then you let them go at the end. Yeah, that sounds terrible. That's a trash fish.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that brings up a great point. You didn't tell us what you were catching them on, Chris. What's your favorite thing to throw at those jacks?
Definitely a big popper. It's too fun to catch them on top water, and especially if you find them on the flats, or you find them in those shallow coves. A lot of time it looks like a boat wake. There's no boats around, but suddenly there's just this wake getting pushed across the shallow area. And if you put that popper in front of them, most of the time they're going to eat it, and it's too fun watching them fall all over it. There's days like if we're really targeting them on fly and we can't get them within range, we'll throw a hookless top water. and they'll start chasing after that top water, and you get them in range to throw the fly on them. I like throwing that hookless popper on them, even if we're not throwing flies at it, because it's just fun watching them hit that popper. Plus, you don't go through quite as many morning workouts as you would if it had hooks.
Absolutely.
No. What about you, Kat? What's your favorite?
Man, I've always been just kind of the opportunistic as far as me personally and for my customers, just like whatever we can do to get one hooked up. But man, I'm really dialed in on the popper mode this year, and Cooper got in on some popper action, man. And we had like six of them just crawling all over top of one another trying to get to that thing, man. And it's as equally as impressive to watch as it is to be a part of and being the angler on the rod.
I'd rather not be the angler.
So much fun. So much fun.
You know, you see social media, you know, of course it's going to blow up, especially the surf fishing pages. A lot of people are going to post pictures of big jacks. And, you know, one of the things when people come into the store, everybody's always asking me which poppers, which this and that. Those fish do not care.
Nope.
You know, the main thing is, does it make noise? If it makes noise and it throws far, it's doing the job. The main thing is you want something that has good hardware on it. You know, you want decent hooks, decent split rings. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of fish from that. But, you know, the probably most popular in this area is definitely the Halco Rusa popper. The new Yozuri mag popper has actually probably become my favorite because it casts further than pretty much all of them. And that thing stays stable. Like when you're chugging it along, it doesn't want to tumble out of the water as bad. It stays level and it stays real stable. And but like I say, it doesn't matter which one you throw. Just make sure it's got a big cup on its mouth, you know, on the front of it, makes a lot of noise and throws far and has good hooks, and you'll catch jacks on it.
Well, Chris, I'm going to ask you one thing on that. So buying the Rooster popper, they come with treble hooks, and I've had my buddy Sam Glass. He's highly suggested to me to swap those things over to single inline hooks.
Oh, absolutely.
So what's the hook for that?
I use the VMC inline singles. I've also had some luck, you know, over the last couple of years, and I kind of got this idea from guys that throw stick baits in Australia, the Indo-Pacific and stuff for GTs and stuff. And it works really well. But actually use fist hooks like you'd use on a butterfly jig or a slow pitch jig, and actually loop those onto the rings because they kind of free float. And it's amazing how well those things work. And because they freely swing with the fish, you almost never pull hooks on those.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea.
Yeah, it works really well. Works very well.
That's a fantastic tip.
Very cool, man. I know that it's just not an offshore report necessarily, but I assume you've kept your finger on the pulse over there. I think we were talking a little bit earlier before we started recording. We got to get out on the escape on Friday and Saturday, and man, I thought that Friday night was going to be on fire. We went pretty much straight south of Dauphin Island over there in that ditch, and got there, and the water really wasn't what I expected. I thought it was going to be a little better, but we put the lights out, and it was some pretty good life. We were running, you know, I think we were at like 50 or 60% waxing. Man, I just thought it was going to be on. I thought that the August moon, you know, up until the full moon was going to be just on fire, and we didn't even get a whack. You heard anything about that?
The sword bite, I mean, there were some fish caught this week. Like waxing crescent moon is usually that's ideal in my opinion, especially on daytime fishing, but nighttime as well. And I mean, yeah, you definitely have to look. You can get obviously different apps, you know, follow your lunar tables and know when your major feeding periods are. I'm going to have bait soaking regardless of that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you're not in the right area or who knows what. I mean, it's just part of fishing, unfortunately. I know the tuna bite was a little slower from what everybody told me. I got offshore Sunday, and all we did was get beat up all day. It was so I was with some customers at the store in a little bit smaller boat, and we just went out and did some bottom fishing. Ended up staying a lot closer than I intended. So you know, as I wanted to get out and try to troll for some wahoo and stuff, we didn't get to do that. But you know, the tuna bite, I know some fish were caught, you know, in the ghetto, as we call it, you know, ram powell, marlin, beer can. There's some fish caught at the marlin, but it's been a lot slower this past week than it was, say, the week prior.
Right.
The week prior, it seems like a lot of fish were caught out there in close. A lot of, you know, 60 to 80 pound, kind of that perfect size fish. And then quite a few mahi as well. The fads off to the southeast, they were producing. They're now in some pretty seriously ugly water. So until some conditions change, I wouldn't expect too much to come from over there. But, there was still some dolphin caught in them, even though they were in just straight green water this past weekend.
Yeah. That's why we went sword fishing. We heard the, tuna bite was not on fire. So we didn't waste the fuel. We just kind of stayed a little bit closer and tried for a sword and then, hit the scamp snapper thing on the way in. But I was just curious as to what you thought on the swordfish. I thought it was going to be good too, man. It was sad. I was looking forward to some sword steaks.
It happens. And think of how many times you've been offshore. Anybody who's been offshore any amount of time has seen, you pull up on a big weed line or a big rip, and it's just epic looking. It's everything you ever dream of finding when you go offshore fishing. And you troll it for miles and miles, switching baits and all kinds of stuff, and you can't buy a bite. Sometimes it's the conditions are perfect and your hopes are up, and it just doesn't happen.
Yep. Yeah,
That's
one of the
never
ingredients
happened.
aren't right there for some reason.
That's never happened to me. I've always
always whacking them.
Yeah,
Captain Patrick's always
time,
whacking them.
Man.
every time I see the perfect scenario, the fish always bite.
I'm gonna have to get that recipe from you.
Yeah,
I'll have to get that recipe from you.
Yep.
Yeah,
I don't know about the
right.
recipe, but I am going to go get my waders on.
That's right. Getting deep in here.
Yep.
Well, man, we appreciate that report. It's always good to hear from you, Chris. If folks want to come down there and pick your brain at Sam's, what's the address and the best way to get in contact with you guys?
Yeah, address is 27122 Canal Road. We're about a mile past Dock Seafood on Canal Road in Orange Beach, down on the left. Or you can give us a call at the store at 251-981-4245.
Appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk to you next time, man. Be safe out there.
All right, thanks for having me.
All right, folks, it's always good to hear from Chris Vecsey over at Sam's Stop and Shop over in Orange Beach, Alabama. Let's take a quick minute and check out a few of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by AFTCO, American Fishing Tackle Company. AFTCO's fishing clothing is designed to handle the harshest elements. From cold tournament mornings to the humid summers of Florida, their products are built to handle the extreme. They're proud to hear customer stories about the 20-plus year-long life cycle of their AFTCO products. Their passion for the outdoors goes beyond their products. They're committed to protecting their fishing resources and angler rights. Through their 10% pledge to protect and conserve, your purchase of any AFTCO product directly supports conservation initiatives. Visit aftco.com. That's AFTCO.com to learn more. And also brought to you by L&M Marine. L&M Marine has something for everyone, from small hunting boats, pontoon boats, to bigger bay boats and offshore hybrids. L&M Marine LLC prides itself on its customer service and knows how important it is to have someone you can trust and to be taken care of. They are locally owned and regularly support the community. L&M Marine provides superior customer service and has an entire team that consists of professional sales members, finance experts, service technicians, and a knowledgeable parts and accessory staff to support you. Go visit their friendly, reliable, and experienced staff, now located only 6 miles north of I-10 at 34600 Highway 59 in Stapleton, Alabama, or give them a call at 251-937-1380. All right, man, let's get our inshore report from old Captain Patric Garmeson with Ugly Fishing. Tell us a fish story, man. What you been up to?
I shouldn't say it's the adult category. It's the open, just the open format of the rodeo. And then they have the junior version of it, anybody that's 15 years and under. So I was like, man, I really need to have them in both, because I also entered myself as a team and as Team Ugly Fishing in the jack category. So I needed a partner. So I had Cooper as my partner on that. And really, this time of the year, I'm such an opportunistic fisherman. I don't really hone in on speckled trout. I don't hone in on redfish or whatever. That's what I love about a rodeo type format on a fishing tournament in the summertime, is that dang near anything that swims is a category of fish. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So it really makes fishing fun, and it makes the whole weekend an enjoyable time. And especially now that the Condies went to get on, now they're on Fishing Chaos, and we can keep up with the leaderboard. I think their scales open at like 10 a.m. on Saturday. So you can start seeing, believe it or not, you can see and understand the trends of a tournament based on the first couple hours of a tournament being open. I see it with the big rodeo. I see it with the Condies and other tournaments where you can kind of see where the trends are. If there's some big heavy speckled trout weighed in early on the first day, then it's probably going to be a really competitive category. But if you see like one of these more, I don't know, say like sheephead is something that I strive for. I love targeting sheephead throughout the year, and that's one of those categories that sometimes people struggle to get into. And we saw it pretty early into the weekend that nobody was getting into it. There was one entered kind of midday or late day Saturday. But anyway, I guess kind of getting off on a tangent here, but I mean, that's really what I do summertime fishing. Just try to really take what, the conditions give me. We've got rain every single day since, like, I guess we had August. August was in June, and now we've got rain. And now August is June. Anyway, it's been,
I don't know what it is, but it's wet.
kind of a backward summer and a lot of rain. But anyway, all of that being said, is there's constantly changing conditions, whether it be wind or rain or whatever. And and Cooper and I, we fish several of these tournaments together. We fish different things together, and man, there's one thing I've learned about that kid is he likes to have his rod bent, and he he likes to have the drag pull.
Yep.
So we entered into the jack category. We did some jack fishing Saturday, and the jack fishing was really, really good Saturday. We caught a lot of jacks. We caught them on top water. We caught them on live bait. We caught them on dead bait. But we caught a lot of jacks. My back is still sore from all of the jack fishing that we did.
How are y'all
But-
targeting? Were you doing shrimp boats or just looking for them, running and gunning? What was your strategy?
Well, early we were on the eastern shore, and they were just blowing up, just feeding on big pogies just everywhere. And I started noticing a pattern where they were kind of coming off the end of this bar and circling around, and I ended up just sticking the power poles down, and we could wait on them to come through. They were coming through us. So it was a little bit aggravating to watch them blowing up out of casting range, and there was a part of me wanted to just get on the trolling motor and keep chasing them down. But I was confident in my decision to pull down where we did and have the fish come back to us. And it happened several times. And in amongst waiting on the jacks to come back, there were actually some big sail cats around, and that's probably Cooper's number 1 or number 2 favorite fish to catch is the daggum snot shark.
They pull.
So we kept some pogies off, and we kept them out in the water. And occasionally the catfish would eat. And I think pretty early in the morning, he had one that was pushing 5 pounds, which is, in tournament standings, that's usually something that's going to be able to be close into place, if not, a second or third place fish. So we had that one pretty early, and the jacks we were catching were all in that, say, 22 to 24 pound range. So they weren't the right school of jacks. Once they kind of calmed down, we moved off, and I had a plan for redfish. Like, I was invested more into red fishing this weekend than pretty much any other fish species. And we went the entire weekend without actually even boating a redfish.
Wow.
So some of that had to do with actually most of it had to do with us just kind of pushing it a little too hard. We were trying to sight fish some of these fish. We could see them. We were making some bad casts. That not just Cooper being 9, but me as a guide and being on a rod a lot, I was still making some bad casts. So we as a team kind of sucked it up red fishing. And then we did end up finding some jacks on some shrimp boats, and really had a blast with that. We just kept going fish after fish after fish, and got into some 27, 28 pound fish. And once we start hitting that level of fish, and I'm weighing them with a boga grip, so I feel I'm feeling 95% certain on what I'm looking at on my, as far as what my weight is. And I'm turning them loose if they're less than 27. And we ended up settling in on some 27, 28 pound fish. And we ended up making it to the weigh-in on Saturday with a pretty respectable mess of jacks. I think Cooper had a first and a third, and I had a second. And that was kind of the trend, was he was always doing better than me in everything he did this past weekend. And
That ain't all bad.
No, man. I'm very, very proud of him.
Well, let's talk about tackle a little bit, man. I know jacks they're just beasts. They're hell on tackle. You're talking about releasing some of these fish, so I would assume you're using something with a little bit of beef to it. What's your go-to setup for these guys?
Yeah, so if I'm trying to catch them, especially in a tournament setting where I feel pretty certain I'm going to have to catch
a bunch and release a bunch.
Yeah, 10 or 12. I mean, obviously, I'd love to only have to catch 3 or 4, but
or one.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about jack fishing is I love catching them, but at the same time, I love to not have to catch a whole bunch of them if I don't have to. But
amen.
Anyway, yeah. So I'm using pretty substantial tackle. I use spinning reels in the 6,000 size, laced with 50-pound braid is generally big enough. Leader it with 60, 80-pound test, and really it doesn't, as long as your leader and your braid match in strength, you're fine. The main thing is I like to go up to like that 80-pound test, just because I'm going to be catching fish after fish after
I
fish.
want to change a leader every time.
Yeah, and a jack's going to chafe it up a little bit. 7/0, 8/0, big circle hook, something that's got a lot of strength that you're not going to bend. And then the rods I'm using are Lew's. I think they're like 7 foot, and they're rated like 50 to 80-pound test or 30 to 6, something like that. But anyway, I want to be able to try to fight that fish as hard as I can possibly fight it, break its spirit, and get it in the boat within. I like to try to think I can get them in under 5 minutes. That's my target. If I can get them in 3 minutes or more or less, perfect. Because ultimately we're trying to cull through these fish to get to the point where we're able to have something that is a weigh-in quality fish. So
sure. Whenever you're putting that much pressure on a fish with that big of pound test, do you use a swivel, or are you still using a braid to mono union of some sort?
Yeah, I just go. I do a Alberto from my braid to my mono, and that's it. Like no swivel, no nothing. I trust that Alberto to lock in place, and I've never had one fail if I did it right. If I did it wrong, it's gonna fail really quickly.
Right.
And
I was just curious. That's a lot of pressure.
It bites in. Yeah, I mean, and I fight them as hard as I can. Like I'll put my hand on the spool and not let it turn.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes I have to let my hand off and let it just take off. But for the most part, I try to put as much heat on them as possible. Most of the time, I'm just gonna take my boga grip and lip grip them over the side of the boat. Once I bring them boat side, put a weight on them, pop the hook out. If it doesn't make weight, dump it back in the water and go back and get another one. Now, if I'm a little skeptical of me to be able to grab it one-handed or whatever, then we'll scoop it up, put it in the net, bring it on in the boat, and then weigh it and then let it go.
Right.
But yeah, man, that's it really is a lot of fun. A lot of my customers enjoy doing it. I would say probably in the last 3 weeks or so, we've been harassing a bunch of them, and I have customers all over the country that come fishing with me, and that's something that they can't get anywhere else. You're not going to go freshwater and find where you can just go and catch a fish that's mad enough at life to want to try to pull you overboard.
True too.
And that is what a jack is trying to do. They're literally going to try to pull you overboard.
What else you been doing?
Outside of that, as far as to finish out the weekend with Cooper, we were like I said it earlier, one of his favorite things is going and chasing those snot sharks, the old the sail cats. And we on Sunday we gave up red fishing again. We gave up 2 days in a row without a redfish. We were running down the bay and I saw some birds just kind of circling, and I felt like we were going to be around some jacks or bull reds or something. Not that the bull reds would have mattered in the tournament, but it's fun to catch. And I just stopped the boat. Cooper threw out some pogies, and he instantly starts catching sail cats that are pushing into the 6 pound range, which is in a tournament setting, that's a really big sail cat. So he goes like 3 in a row. I'm fishing as well. I'm not catching anything. Finally, I catch one, and it was like 4 pounds. And Chris Vecsey was on talking about, I don't know if we had it on air or not, but he was talking about making fun of me about calling my sail cat. We had the sail cat selfie.
Yeah.
And so I just put it on my Facebook as my new profile picture because
He owes you $1 now.
Yeah, he owes me $1. But so anyway, Cooper loads the boat with just these massive sail cats, and then we move on to an area that I felt good about, maybe catching redfish, sheephead, even a ground mullet would have been an option in this area. And a few fish in, he catches a little over 9 pound sheephead, which is an absolute monster any time of the year, and especially
right now. Yeah.
I personally have never seen a 9 pound sheephead in the summertime. And it was like, I'm still beside myself to think that happened, that he got that fish and got it on a tournament day. It's his personal best. He's never caught a sheephead that big, and he caught it on a tournament. We kept it alive, took it to the scales, weighed it in. He got first place. To round out the whole tournament discussion, the kid took first place in sheephead, first place in sail cat, second place in sail cat. That was in the open board, which anybody, all adults, kids, anybody can be on that. And then in the junior category, you had first place sheephead, first place sail cat. He was tied for master angler on the main board. Lost it due to the rules of the tournament on, as far as the tiebreaker is concerned, which, perfectly understandable.
Sure.
But the Condies is really cool. So they have a option. They have a top male angler, top female angler, and Cooper got top male angler. So
That's
at
awesome.
9 years old, got top male angler for the year with the Condi Rodeo.
Celebrity.
I don't know, man. He's he's my son. I like to brag on him, but he's been showing out in these tournaments here lately.
Sounds like he's a shoe-in.
But anyway, outside of that, man, like I said earlier, this is the time of the year where I'm real opportunistic. If jacks are blowing up, I'm targeting them. We're starting to run into some bull reds in some of these areas where you have some estuaries dumping out or some rivers dumping out, and the pogies are getting super, super thick in these areas. And there's some bull reds starting to show up pretty good in some of those areas.
I saw some of those pictures of some giants you caught. So that's
one of them. Yeah.
Huge.
The one you're talking about, I think every single one of them we caught that day were over 40 inches. And my standard as a guide is like anything over 40 inches on a redfish is like quote unquote trophy status.
Absolutely.
And then the jack, anything that's at 30 pound and better, those are trophy status fish in my opinion. And yeah, so all the redfish were over 40 inches. It's just unbelievable.
Do you guys just luck into those, or were you kind of looking for them? Like you said, now's a good time to get those big girls with the pogies coming out of the tributaries, but what were they biting on, and how did you find them?
I think every one of those fish came on top water.
Wow.
Yeah, so we were coming through an estuary. I liked this time of year, I just like to have pogies on the boat. So through the cast net, caught some pogies, and we were leaving. We were headed out. and then I see a fish blow up, and I was like, man, that sure looked like a redfish right there. So we turned around and we stopped. I gave the guys some top water just to see what would happen. And within just a few minutes, we had our first one on. That was right at 40, maybe 41 inches. And
that's a screamer right there.
On top water, man. I mean, and the thing ate his top water like a rod length away from the boat, man. It was
epic.
Unbelievable.
That's cool.
But so much fun. All of these fish, we take good care of them. Got some good pictures. We tagged them. Take some time to revive them. Make sure that they're going to swim off good and strong. That's one thing I'd like for people to understand. The guys that do target these fish or accidentally catch them, however, whatever the case may be, just take some time with these fish, especially right now in the summertime with the water being hot. Make sure that fish swims out of your hands and not just throw it back in the water and hope for it to do its best.
Right.
Because they just ran a marathon in a sprint. You know, I mean, they had a really strenuous fight. Yeah. It was a very strenuous fight.
I guarantee you, if I put a 7-aught hook, around my neck and then took off running with 18 pounds of drag, I'd be passed out in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, exactly.
Guaranteed. I would need some revivation for sure.
Exactly. I mean, it's probably the exact same thing that the redfish is feeling. Yeah. But so yeah, just take some time, work on the fish. And I always tell my customers, because I like I like for them to actually have the opportunity to let the fish swim out of their hands. I just try to put the fish in a swimming motion. You want the fish to be moving into the current, whether you're moving the boat or you have current flowing by your boat, just having the fish facing into the current and giving it a swimming action. So the whole entire body of the fish is swimming, right? And then that means that their gills are working properly. Everything's doing what it's supposed to do. And then as soon as that fish is to that reviving point, you're going to feel it. It's going to kick and it's going to take off and you're not going to see it again. It's going to swim off and it's going to do its thing. And, hopefully you'll be able to enjoy catching it again, in days to come or
all of its babies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Catching all of its babies for years to come.
That's right.
Agreed, man. What else? What else did we cover? What else you been doing?
So today we went red fishing and we caught a bunch of nice white trout. I went to an area that I felt really good about catching some slot redfish, and I think we had one hooked up and ended up breaking us off. But we had everything that came on board were like really nice, like probably 3/4 of a pound, 1.5 pound white trout. So made for a nice mess of fish for my customers today.
Those things are fun to catch too. They hit like a freight train.
It's very unusual or very strange how hard that they'll hit, but really then a lot of times they kind of give up on the way to the boat. But it is fun as hard as they do strike. But I haven't really done a whole lot of speckled trout fishing. We've been catching a few here or there. We've been doing some deep, reef fishing and stuff. Been doing some shallow water fishing. But man, this is the time of year where there's so many different species at our fingertips and that we can target and enjoy, that because they're not going to be here for another couple of months. And once they're gone, we're waiting until next summer. So I like to harass the speckled trout once it gets cooler and less fish are available, and that's kind of my MO.
Yeah, that's one thing I enjoy about your reports and just talking to you in general is, like you say, opportunistic. Just catch what's biting, and there's always something biting here on the Gulf Coast, man. It may not be, your favorite species or the glorious species that everybody always gets caught up on, but man, there's always something to catch here, and it's fun.
I tell you one thing, the one fish that got away today, besides we did have one, I feel like a redfish that had broke us off. My customer had a absolute monster ladyfish hooked up, and nice. it was acting up and it came off, and I was aggravated because I've now become like fascinated with trying to get these great big ones in the boat because they really are a challenge to get into the boat.
Yes, they are.
I mean, they do poop everywhere, so you gotta, as long as you know to grab them where their poop chute's gonna be pointed to the water.
Other way, that's right.
then they're a lot of fun. But I like to put them on the boga grip and see what kind of weights, because we have this year in particular, we've had a couple of them tip the scales over 3 pounds, and man,
Wow.
There's not a lot of 3-pound fish out there that fight anywhere
tarpon.
near.
That's like a baby tarpon.
And they're crazy. They jump, they
do flips,
and they flip, they jump. You know, you're over here, you're off the starboard side of the boat, and all this, the next thing you know, the dang thing's
Way
under the
over
boat
there.
on the port side, and like in a matter of a half a second. So
yeah,
they're
fun to catch.
They're amazing, and a lot of people don't give them credit where credit's due. In my opinion, they are a lot of fun. They tear up your line. You got to retie your leader after you're done, but man, they're a cool fish in my opinion.
Yep. Yes, they are, man. Well, congratulations to Cooper. That sounds like a really, really cool tournament. Congratulations to you as well. I know you guys fish hard and enjoy fishing together. That's really cool to see. Folks want to get up with you and book a trip. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Man, the easiest thing is uglyfishing.com. You can go on there, click the book now button. You'll be able to see all my availability. In addition to that, I've got some guys that I'm trying to help keep some trips on their books. So if you just need to get out, got some customers need to get out, or whatever the case may be, and I'm booked, I can get you set up with somebody else. Just shoot me a text is the easiest thing at 251-747-1554. But anyway, all the information's at uglyfishing.com.
We appreciate you giving the report, and we appreciate you taking care of our listeners, man. We look forward to hearing from you next time.
Thanks, sir.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. That's an awesome inshore report from Captain Patric Garmeson with Ugly Fishing. You guys take a quick minute and check out a few of this week's great sponsors that bring you the podcast for free each week. That segment was brought to you by Alabama Marine Resources. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers who harvest gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper that their catch must be reported through Snapper Check. This includes vessels, kayaks, and shore anglers who possess any of these reef fish. Reporting is mandatory and must be done prior to landing fish in Alabama, regardless of where the fish were caught. Anglers can report to Snapper Check online at outdooralabama.com or through the official Outdoor AL app. For more information about Snapper Check, please visit outdooralabama.com. And also brought to you by United Bank. United Bank knows what an important role agriculture plays in our local economy. At United Bank, they are here to support local farmers with financial products and services designed specifically for agribusiness, including real loans for farmland, equipment loans, working lines of credit, and more. Truth is, they deeply value the contributions agriculture makes to our communities, and they help our local farmers build successful businesses. They want to see you succeed. Learn more at unitedbank.com or stop by any United Bank branch. United Bank, all loans subject to credit approval, equal housing opportunity lender, member FDIC. All right, Captain Patric, you know we got to do what did you learn before we get out of here today, man? What did you pick up from today's show?
Oh man, I really like Chris's tip on using that tandem assist hook for those top waters for the
Something
jacks.
I never really considered, but it makes a lot of sense.
Man, it makes perfect sense. I do not like treble hooks. Like I'm trying to get into these inline hooks for top waters, and I've had success with them for sure. But man, this idea right here just really sounds like the absolute perfect scenario for jack fishing and just throwing those big poppers and just having the hook stay in place, because now all of a sudden they've got some free range motion there between the hook and the lure versus being fixed. Because a lot of times I do lose fish on treble hooks because, you know, it's so rigid from the lure to the hook.
It'll pry their mouth.
Exactly. You just kind of wallow that out. And man, I really like that tip. What about you, dude?
Yep, I definitely picked up on that too. It's something that I'd never really considered. And man, treble hooks, they're first of all, there's a lot of hooks, and I'm always I'm always befuddled that a fish can actually hit one of those things with 2 or 3 treble hooks and not get hooked. It blows my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
So if your hookup ratio doesn't suffer by going to an inline, then why would you not? I mean, they're safer for you, safer for the angler, safer for the fish. So it's definitely something I'm going to try. And I'm sure it'll be like anything, you'll have to just kind of play with it and figure out which scenario, which setup as far as the tandem assist hook works better. But it seems like it might be worth it in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Man, salt's gone. It seems like an absolute no-brainer. I'm definitely going to use your discount code. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm going to get some, man. Like I said, I wash my boat a lot more than I would like to. But it seems like if you're going to be doing it, why would you not be doing it as good as possible? And Zach really broke it down as far as, like you were saying, why does this seem like it's actually putting wax on my boat? Well, it's not necessarily, but it's not taking it away either.
That's right.
Makes great sense.
I'm telling you right now, the boat washing process for me has just been so more streamlined. I barely ever have to break out any other soaps or deck cleaners or anything like that. Like I really like the Starbright non-skid deck wash. I mean, I probably use it like twice a month now, whereas I used to use it, I don't know, probably 3 times a week.
I mean, can't that strip your wax though? Doesn't the Starbright, can it strip your wax, or am I wrong on that?
That particular product, no,
Gotcha.
It doesn't have it. And it actually adds a layer of protectant down as well. But what I'm getting at is using the Salt Gone product. It just loosens everything up and it takes it away, and I just don't have the stains stick around like I used to. And I mean, I don't know, man. I just can't go on enough about how
I think Zach
happy I am for making the purchase of that product.
For sure. I think Zach did a great job about breaking it down and telling us how it actually worked. And you can't argue with science, right?
You can't. Well, I mean, there's probably some science you could argue with, but I like his science. It works.
For sure. I bet Joe would argue with it at some point.
What? Joe wouldn't have anything to say. But it works, man. It's I'm
looking forward to trying that on my boat for sure. I've definitely been like I said, I was being truthful. I've never really had a boat that I cared about that much. And I want to make it as nice as possible for as long as possible. And it sounds like a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, and I'm in a situation where I turn my boats over pretty regular, and the less corrosion, the less rust, the less any type of stuff. I mean, it's just better for me in the long run because
make you more money.
Yeah, then I'm passing a product on to someone that's, the boat looks that much better.
Right, as pristine as possible.
Yeah, despite the use that I put them through. So it's a no-brainer.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a quick break and check out a few more of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Foster Contracting, Fortified Roofing Pros. Do you need a new roof? Do you have wind or hail damage? You may qualify for a free roof. Foster Contracting will inspect and provide you with an estimate, stress-free, and they will handle your claim with your insurance. Your roof is your first line of defense this storm season. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your day. Foster Contracting has you covered. Check them out at www.fortifiedroofingpros.com or give them a shout at 251-447-2978. All right, Captain Patrick, it's always a pleasure whenever you co-host with me, man. Thanks for joining me today.
Dude, absolutely my pleasure, and always enjoy it.
I know you got off the water and ran into the studio today to help me out. Our big-headed friend's got a little illness. He could not join me today. Joe was supposed to join us for the Salt's Gone segment, and we wish him well as soon as possible. But I'm glad you got to join me today.
Hey, man, no problem. Joe gets he's kind of a softy from time to time. So
yeah. What are you gonna do?
Nothing, man. We just
gotta bail him out when you can.
We just have to pick up his slack.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please make sure and subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to text the word fishing to 314-665-1767 to get that free AFCO sun protection mask promo code, and also to be added to our email list. And we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. Be safe out there. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Test Calibration. Test Calibration is your source for sales and service of diesel turbochargers and fuel injection systems since 1976. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. And also brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. And also brought to you by Fishbites. Whether you are hitting the sand with a set rig using the traditional scent strips for pompano or fishing the flats or marshes for speckled trout, redfish, and flounder, Fishbites has something for you. Fishbites baits and lures are made with pride in the Sunshine State of the USA. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits at fishbites.com.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report was brought to you by me, Joe Baya, and National Land Realty. If I can help you in any way with the purchase or sale of land in Alabama or Florida, whether it's timberland, farmland, recreational land like hunting land, or even agricultural land or ranch land like horse farm, drop me a message at jbaya@nationalland.com. That's JBAYA@nationalland.com.
And also brought to you by KillerDock. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit killerdock.com to see more. And also brought to you by boaterslist.com. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Sign up at boaterslist.com to find a company to work with on your next boat project. Also brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by Hilton's Real-Time Navigator, bringing you the highest quality online satellite fishing chart since 2004. Your source for sea temps, altimetry, currents, and watercolor at hiltonsoffshore.com. And also brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588.